Welcome back, and today I'm going to make chocolate chip cake. And the first step is to butter the pan. So I'm using a 9 by 13 glass casserole dish, and you can use a metal dish. A metal dish will make it easier to pop it out. I like to just use the glass because I like to do that. And you could also use 2 8 by 8s and do a layered cake. So I'm going to get a tab of butter, and I'm going to put a generous amount and make sure you get it evenly. And what I'm using is just the paper from the butter. If you don't have that because you've already taken the butter out, you can use plastic wrap. That works well too. Because if you use your bare hands, then you're just going to get a lot of butter on your hands, which is okay also, depending what you have. And this cake is kind of fluffy, so I got to make sure that I get up high enough so it doesn't stick to the top. And you would do the same thing if you were using the metal pans, especially if you want to pop it out for sure. I just put it in here. For me, it's just easier to cut the pieces out of here. All right, so then we need a little bit of flour, not too much. And then I'm going to take this over to the sink, the flour in the pan, and then I'm just going to, need to move up the camera so everybody can see. Move the faucets out of the way and just kind of beat on the sides of the tray and try to get your flour everywhere as best as possible. And then I have a silicone brush like you use for barbecue sauce. And I'm just going to kind of paint it on in the spots that I didn't get it. Make sure it's everywhere. And then back over the top of the sink again. And then I'm going to use that same brush to just brush off, let everybody see, brush off the excess, excuse my arm. Here. Okay, so that part is just gonna go like that, and the excess, that part's done. Okay, so I am preheating the oven now to 350 degrees, and I'm gonna start measuring out the ingredients. So let's start with the flour. Okay, so we need 2 cups of flour. And when measuring out flour, you want to level off the flour. So I dipped it in. I'm using the back of a butter knife, and I'm leveling it off. Okay, 1. 2. And then the next ingredient that's going to go in this particular bowl is baking powder. So make sure it's baking powder and not baking soda because it makes a difference. So baking powder. And this particular recipe requires a lot. That's why it's fluffier. So we need 3½ teaspoons of baking powder. So I have my teaspoon here. And I'm going to count to 3 and measure it out here. And I'm going to use the lid because when doing baking powder, you also level off your baking powder. So I'm going to use this. So 1, 2, 3, and then I have my 1/2 teaspoon, and I need 1/2. So 3½ teaspoons of baking powder. And then my next ingredient is a teaspoon of salt. I always do a little bit less salt than a whole entire teaspoon because I don't like my sweets to taste salty, but you do need a little bit to help the baking powder work. So I'm just doing a little bit less. I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to take a fork. I should Should have gotten out earlier. Okay. Take the fork and just mix it up a little. And then I'm going to set this aside. Okay, now time to measure out the sugar. Okay, so I need 1.5 cups of sugar. So when measuring out sugar, it also needs to be leveled off. So 1. And then I have my 1/2 cup measure. Level it off. So I have 1.5 cups of sugar. And in with the sugar, I need to put my butter. Now I have left the butter on the counter a little while, and it has softened up. But I'm still going to go ahead and take that butter knife now that I have, and I'm going to kind of cut up the butter as I'm adding it into the sugar, like this, just so that it'll make it easier when mixing. Okay, I'm going to set that aside, and then I need 1 cup of milk. Okay, try to put everything at arm's length, but sometimes it's just a little farther. So I have my liquid measuring cup, and a cup is right here. And so when measuring liquid, you have to get level with your measuring device, with your measuring cup. And so I'm going to pour this in, and I'm going to make sure it's level with that 1 cup that I pointed out. Okay, so I have 1 cup. Now I have 3 eggs. One, 2, get the shell out. Okay. 3. I'm going to go wash my hands. Okay, now time for the extract. Today I'm going to be using almond extract, and I'm going to do a teaspoon of almond extract. And I always like to put my extracts in with my eggs. It's hard, the almond extract is clear, so it's kind of hard to see when you get it to the top. All right, it smells really, very, very good, the almond extract. So now I'm going to take a fork, and I'm going to slightly scramble these eggs, or mix them up, not scramble them, but mix them up. Okay, so it's time to go to the mixer. But what I like to do, just so you don't make a mistake, it's a very good idea before you even go over to the mixer, is go through all your ingredients. So I have 2 cups of flour, and I have 1.5 cups of sugar, and I have 3.5 teaspoons of baking powder, and I have my salt, I have my butter, I have my milk measured out, I have the extract, and the 3 eggs. So now we're ready to go over to the mixer and get everything mixed up. So in addition to the ingredients that I went over the list, I also have milk chocolate, and this is 11.5 ounces of milk chocolate morsels. So that is going to go in the end, and I will probably have to hand stir it in because I don't want the mixer to break up the chocolate chips. All right, so we're going to start with the butter and the sugar. Okay, I'm going to show everybody. I'm not going to use a dough hook because the dough hook is more for like cookie dough and also for bread dough and stuff like that. And I'm not going to use the wire whisk because that's for like egg whites and sauces and things like that. So I'm going to use this attachment. Okay. Okay, so we're going to start creaming the butter and the sugar together, and I think I have an okay angle there so you can watch. Let's get started. Take a rubber spatula and scrape down the sides. I have this nice rubber spatula that also is kind of like a spoon that I'll use also later to add the flour, which will make it easier. So I'm just making sure that nothing's sticking. So that's good. And then I am going to continue to blend this. Okay, so let's take a look. We have just a little bit sticking on the side, but for the most part it's not sticking. So the next thing to do is add our eggs, which has the almond extract in it. And I'm just gonna pour that in. I use the fork to scrape the sides. Okay, let's take a peek and look at this and see where we're at on it. Okay, we need to scrape the sides. When you're scraping the sides, make sure you also kind of scrape the bottom a little, because it tends to like to stick on the bottom. Okay, I'm going to mix this up just a tad more. So now it looks like it's mixed well. Now it's time to add the flour and the milk. So I am going to, let's see, I'm going to turn this a little and move the camera back so you can kind of see there. Okay, so I'm going to add, and I'll be doing this throughout the mixing process. I'll slow down the mixer and I'll add the flour. You want to slow it down, otherwise the flour is going to come flying out. So a few scoops of the flour, and then a little bit of the milk that we measured out, and I will just keep on mixing, adding, and here we go. That's the rest of the flour. We get the rest of the milk here. Okay, so I definitely need to scrape down, a little bit of flour. Okay, we definitely need to scrape down the sides here with our rubber spatula. Now, one of the reasons why I also put it on such a high speed is what we're doing when we're mixing it up like that is we're actually mixing air into the batter to make it more fluffy. So if you don't have a standing mixer, but you have a handheld mixer, you could do the same thing. Now, if you were trying to mix this by hand, you'll want to try to mix it as fast as you can. It'll be a good workout, that's for sure. So that you can actually whip air into the batter. Okay, so let's continue to mix it up. And mixing is very important. You don't want to undermix because you'll get clumps in your cake or whatever you're making, and that's not good. All right. Just for good measure, I'm going to make sure I scrape it one more time, and it seems to be okay so far. I'm going to kind of reach under, make sure there's nothing sticking to the bottom. Okay, so far so good. I'll mix it just a tad more. This is mixed well. I'm going to go get the chocolate chips. I'm just going to pour all the chocolate chips in here. And I did taste test one to make sure it's good. Sometimes you want to do that if you're going to pour something into some batter or whatever. Just, you know, go ahead and taste it. Make sure it tastes good. All right, so I'm going to kind of scrape the sides too when I'm doing this, just so I have all of it. And I'm just going to mix it up. Hand mix it. Like I said, I don't want to use the mixer because I don't want to break the chocolate chips up, and these powerful mixers tend to do that. So just mix it up good. Hope everybody's having a good day. So see, I'm scraping the sides, mixing at the same time, trying to make sure that these chips get evenly distributed. Okay, so now I'm going to pour it into the pan. And I'm scraping the edges, I mean not the edges, the sides, excuse me, scraping the sides of the bowl so I get all the batter in here. And as I said before, that almond extract is really making it smell delicious, that's for sure. Try to get every drop of this. And as I had said before, the oven has now preheated and it's at 350 degrees. Okay, so now I'm just going to kind of make sure that it's evenly distribute it into this side and this side, and just make sure it's all nice and even. And I'm just gonna take a butter knife and just scrape this. Okay, so this should take probably about 30 to 35 minutes to bake. So we will check on it like at the halfway point. I'm going to set a timer for around 15 minutes just to kind of see where we're at on things. And I'll be back shortly. So it's been 15 minutes, and remember I said it'll probably take like 30 to 35 minutes, but let's just take a peek and just see how it's looking. It smells great and it's looking good. We'll check back in about another 15 minutes. Okay, it smells like the cake's done, so I'm going to do a toothpick test. And see. Okay. All right. And it is done and ready to take out of the oven. I'm gonna let this cool for quite some time before we frost it, and I will do the taste test after it is frosted. So this will have to cool down, I'll have to frost the cake, and I can actually eat the cake tomorrow. So in the meantime, house smells great, and I am looking forward to trying a piece of this cake. So now it is time to frost the cake. Okay, so I am frosting this cake with Rocky Road frosting. Now you can catch that in another video of mine. Otherwise, we decided to do 2 videos, otherwise it would be very long. So, Rocky Road frosting on my chocolate chip cake. And I'm going to adjust the camera just a hair, sorry. There we go. So you can see. I'm going to try out this new device that my husband got me. See if it works well for this. I'm going to put a generous amount of frosting on here. Maybe this is more for scraping. I don't know. I almost feel like I'm going to need a metal thing. This is very thick frosting. Let's see. I got this other one right here. It's a little bit stiffer. Try another one. Let's see. Okay. Let's see. I still think I need more. Oh, yeah. This one. So this one maybe was better for scraping the bowl. Or I could actually use them in conjunction with each other. I'm going to push this down. And I still think I'm going to need metal. So I'm just going to get out literally a butter knife. And I think that's going to be easier. Not to get it out of the bowl. Definitely to get it out of the bowl I need something better than a butter knife. But I think to spread this, I'm definitely going to need. And I'm going to do this, I'm going to taste test this cake tomorrow. So I'm going to put this in the fridge all night. So this is, the cake has a lot of texture because of the chocolate chips, and this has a lot of texture because of the marshmallows and the walnuts. So it's different, you know? It's not your traditional frosting, which is fine, because it's good to have different types of things to eat. Okay. Okay. We're almost done. So this has its own unique look to it, this Rocky Road frosting. Of course, this cake, you can use whatever type of frosting you want. This is what sounded really good to me. For some reason, I thought chocolate chip cake with Rocky Road frosting sounded very good. Okay, we're getting really close to having this all frosted. I cannot wait till I can try this tomorrow. Making this for a birthday, and so that's why I can't cut into it tonight. Also, I think once it sits in the fridge, it's going to be almost more like, you know, it's going to be cold, more like an ice cream type of thing with the Rocky Road, and the frosting will thicken up. You could certainly eat it just like this, though. But I did wait, just so everybody knows, I probably waited about 4 hours after baking this to frost the cake. Okay. All right, it is time for the taste test, but I want to show everybody what the cake looks like after it's been sitting in the fridge all night long. So I'm going to adjust the camera. Okay, so check this out. You don't even need to decorate this cake because it's got the marshmallows, it's got the walnuts, and it looks luscious. And this is with the Rocky Road frosting that you can check out on my chocolate Rocky Road frosting video. All right, so I'm going to cut a piece and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, now time for the taste test. Cut a nice piece. Now I want to mention that my chocolate chips did kind of float to the bottom, even though, as you remember, I had them all stirred in. But it's okay because the way it's going to be is a lot of texture and then no texture and then a lot of texture. So let's try it. It looks absolutely delicious. Now I gotta grab a piece and make sure I have those chocolate chips. Okay, I'll probably drop some. That is really, really good. Absolutely delicious. The almond makes the cake taste very decadent. And the chocolate chips are very good, but they do not overpower the cake. So you're tasting chocolate chips. And then this Rocky Road frosting is absolutely delicious. It's a wonderful combination. So again, it is a chocolate chip cake with Rocky Road frosting. And I think I will have another piece on camera here. It is. I really urge everybody to try this out. It's absolutely delicious. What it kind of reminds me of, you know, if you've ever had tiramisu and there's layers. So this cake has layers to it, different levels of flavor, and they all get along really well. They'll blend really well. When you taste it in your mouth, you're like, oh wow, I had something very decadent. So I hope you enjoyed this video. For those of you who subscribe to my channel, I really appreciate it. And if you don't subscribe, it is free. Thanks for watching.